What's up, everyone? Thanks for tuning in today. I am joined by Drea Blackwell of KSBW. Drea, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well, thank you.
Thanks for joining us. I'm super excited to ask some questions. So let's get right into it. First things first, Mostert's trade request. I think that's kind of been the biggest news out of 49ers world lately, which is what are your initial thoughts on that?
I got that news when I was on vacation. So I was just sunbathing and then I get hit with this, oh, Mostert's demanding a trade. So it really caught me off guard. It's like, I'm not supposed to be dealing with this right now. I feel like I can see both sides of it. You know, from Raheem's standpoint, this is the most leverage that he's experienced in his career. We're talking about a guy that was cut, I believe it's 6 times before joining the Niners. He played out of his mind. So I do get it. And at my core, I want all of the guys to get paid. That being said, I don't think the Niners are going to do that. And I don't think it makes sense from their end to do that when they have a coach as successful as Shanahan has been, making the most at that position, getting production out of a number of different guys like Raheem who are cut, or undrafted guys like Breida. I just can't see this particular team doing that, especially after he just signed last year, so early into his contract. And then the trade request, I get it. You have to pull the leverage card there, but I don't know. You're going to make the exact same salary at the next team. So at that point, we're kind of splitting hairs on, do you want to be with a team that is a legit competitor in the NFC, or do you want to take your chances trying to negotiate some type of extension elsewhere? I just can't see it happening, especially if Jerick McKinnon is healthy.
That's a huge if. I think that's kind of what a lot of this is dependent on. But what I really agree with you on, and what kind of just like made me wonder is like, you've been constantly just cut bottom of this rosters. You finally found what we talked about on our podcast last season, and I called it the perfect marriage. I said it's exactly what Kyle Shanahan's looking for, and it's exactly what Raheem Mostert's looking for. And you finally have success, establish yourself as kind of the lead back, and now you want to leave. And
Right.
it just kind of, I understand. I'm totally with you. Players should get every cent that they're owed. However, this is just an iffy case because it's like, you know, he just signed, like you said, and it's just really touchy. So I totally agree with you there. Now moving on to another player who's kind of having contract negotiations in George Kittle. There's kind of been that recent hype movement on Twitter, which is, you know, PayGeorgeKittle, and it's getting a lot of steam. Guys like Trent Taylor, George Kittle's trainer, they're all kind of commenting, chiming in on it, saying you need to pay George Kittle. Do you think that there will be any news coming out of Santa Clara? There have been some there have been some extensions kind of announced with other teams. Anything with Santa Clara and George Kittle?
Well, that's what I think. The pressure's really getting put on right now, but it's almost unfair because you're looking at a lot of guys that are franchise tagged, so they're coming up against that deadline. But anytime you see an extension going through, it's hashtag pay George Kittle. And I get that because I want George to get paid. I do not want Kittle going anywhere, and he's earned more than I can even imagine in terms of his productivity and what he means to this team, both as a leader and as a playmaker. So the pay George Kittle thing, it is funny to watch online and to see. I take it as almost like anxiety, as panic, and I just have not felt that way. I'm not worried about it. I feel like they're going to get it done. Maybe ask me in a week and I'll have like more panic. Or maybe it's, I don't know, maybe everything else is so stressful right now that I haven't given enough stress towards George Kittle. But I have full confidence that the team is going to get it done and that's the priority. I think it was obviously taken into consideration with Eric Armstead's contract and letting Defoe go or trading him. So I think that's where their heart and where their head has always been. And in terms of the money, I know I saw some people talking about him getting wide receiver money up into the 16, 17 million. I think it's going to be less than that, but I would put it, you guys can, if I get this right, you have to like repost it. I'm going to go 15 million a year.
Okay. Yeah. You know, that's actually kind of what we were thinking of my co-host Matt, we would do a show, Niners News here, and we said 14, 15, but there have been numbers floated as high. He wants Julio 22 type money. And we're just saying, guys, George Kittle is great, but that's just resetting the market in a whole different way. That's just not feasible for the 49ers to do.
Totally. And the one thing I will say that I think is getting strange because the NFL is changing so much, we have these numbers in our head that are set for, now I just said, I think George Kittle will probably get $15 million a year, 13 to 15 million. But I do think it's a little bit unfair that a guy like Kittle, who is so valuable and the way he's used in this offense is beyond what you would imagine for a typical tight end in the old school sense. So I do think the game has to change a little bit in how we evaluate contracts and what numbers we're using. You see it on defense too with guys who are listed as an outside linebacker or they're a defensive end and you're not getting paid properly because of your position when really you're rushing off of the edge, even if you're listed as an outside linebacker. So I think Kittle falls into that weird place of, or McCaffrey, where McCaffrey is so much more than a running back.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point because it's like you have to reward him for more than what he does. And you look at guys like, Austin Hooper, and you're thinking he's 200% better than Austin Hooper. All due respect to him, but he's in a completely different class. So when you're trying to find that perfect medium ground between way too much and you're just lowballing.
Exactly.
And the way I see this situation is they have to pay George Kittle mainly due to the fact that this is exactly what you want from a rookie, from somebody you drafted yourself. Not only you drafted, but a 5th-round pick, a guy that came out, developed, and turned into the best tight end of the league. What message do you send to your own team if you don't even pay that guy? All these other guys are coming in and thinking, well, if he's not going to get paid, what am I going to get?
Right.
So mainly from that point alone, they have to pay George Kittle. I think they will pay George Kittle. I think they'll do right by him. And I totally agree. And I will take your word on it. If they give him 15, we'll share this everywhere. Let everybody know Drea Blackwell called it first.
Called it. Yep.
Now moving on to the other side of the ball, the 49ers have an absolute stud in Fred Warner. And he's just kind of recently started to get some more hype around the league. But do you think that he's still underrated?
Yes. I think he's underrated on his own team, but that's not even a shot at Fred or at anybody else. The Niners defense is so stacked and has so many big personalities that I think he does get kind of lost in the shuffle, not because he's not a fantastic player, but because Sherm is Sherm. He's that talented, but then he's also all of the bravado, all of the personality. Quan is right next to him and has a very similar, way of carrying himself. Bosa just absolutely stole the hearts of Niners fans. But then Fred Warner's the one calling the defense out there. Fred Warner's the one organizing everything. Fred Warner led the team in tackles. And I think he can just do so much. He's so great at it, in the run game, attacking the ball, but then he can also, he's great in coverage. I think that Fred, and I just looked up, he's 23.
Yeah.
23. That makes me feel very old and very excited because I know that this is just the beginning. I did see a list come out today that he was considered one of the top 10 by some executives and some players who were polled around the league. And I think that's right. That, top 10 and probably towards the lower end of that tier.
Yeah, definitely. And that's why I was saying he's just starting to get some hype around the league, which is great. I love Fred Warner as a player, but I also love it because years ago when he was drafted, I did mock drafts. Like everybody did mock drafts. And I got him down to the pick.
Nice.
Fred Warner, and I was so hyped. That's kind of like I'm going to say that every time we talk about him.
I will say Fred Warner, great dresser. I know that doesn't really matter in terms of his play, but Deion Sanders said, what is it? Look good, play good.
Play good, yeah. Feel good, play good.
Yep, Fred Warner dresses very well. It stood out in the press conferences.
As a guy who wears a suit 5 days a week, I respect that. Moving back, there's kind of been some rough times with Dante Pettis. He flashed really brightly the back end of his rookie year, and then he's kind of seemed to regress a little bit. Do you think that this is the year where it's kind of put up or shut up, where the 49ers might be forced to come to the conclusion that they need to cut ties with Dante Pettis?
I think this is definitely the year, yeah. Dante, like you said, at the back end of that rookie season was so good. And then you see some of the work he does, his footwork, his route running. He is very talented. But a lot of that play, a lot of the production we saw was with Nick Mullins. So I don't know if it's a chemistry thing, a timing thing with him and Jimmy. I don't know if there was some type of personalities clanging against each other last year, or if it's just a really general sophomore slump, a guy trying to adjust to life in the NFL. But for some reason or another, I mean, I think it surprised everybody how little he was on the field, how few they used him. Mm-hmm. I would think that this is that final year where the decision is really made. Is Dante going to take on a bigger role, especially with Debo out, especially with this opportunity to really step up, or are we going to have to look towards other options?
Yeah, and I think it's kind of forced the 49ers into a rough position, especially last year. They had to go out and acquire a guy like Emmanuel Sanders. Mm-hmm. I'm sure going into the year, they had no intention of having to go out and acquire a veteran wide receiver. They were probably thinking Dante's going to take another step. We do have Debo, and they probably thought they were set. And then things didn't work out that way, and they were forced to go out and get Sanders and give up, I believe, a third-round pick. So it really kind of put them in a tough spot. And I think what was most telling is that he wasn't even dressed for the Super Bowl. And right. It's kind of like, I mean, if that's not a symbol of where his career is at the moment. And also another thing with him is that it seems like he's in Kyle Shanahan's doghouse. And once you get in that doghouse,
seem that way.
It does, yeah. And it seems like that gate just kind of gets shut and locked with a key. You know, it's like Matt Breida seemed to be in that doghouse. Now he's in Miami. So
yeah. And that's what I mean about the personalities. Dante seems like a really easygoing, like nice guy. So I don't know what that is. But for one reason or another, like you said, not dressed for the Super Bowl, like hardly even stepping onto the field last season. And then all of the stuff that was coming out in training camp from last year in terms of just, is he going to play? Like there was a lot of nasty rumors coming out in terms of his productivity and how he was fitting in with the rest of the team. And just, yeah, I mean, and with Ayuk as well, just to loop it all together, you know, with Ayuk coming in, it took Debo about half a year to really catch on. It took Dante about half a year to catch on and to get Kyle's system, his offense. And right now, with Debo out, we're not really in that position where we have that grace period. We kind of need Dante to be effective because our other guy's out and Ayuk's going to just take some time. Unless he's amazing right off the bat, and then I would like that as well. So,
yeah, we'll take it either way. I spoke with Kyle Posey a while back about Dante Pettis, and he was telling me how Kyle Posey of Niners Nation. He was telling me how in training camp, the kind of running joke was if there's any sort of contact, Dante's not going to catch it. Yeah. So maybe there's just some sort of adjustment issues there, but we certainly hope for the best.
And now, moving on.
Yeah. Moving on, I'm going to do some. Yes, Debo is such a physical receiver. The contrast is crazy.
Yeah.
But we'll move on to some rapid fire kind of fun questions. And we can start with some of your favorite 49ers stories since you've been covering the team.
Oh, since I've been covering the team? Oh.
Or in general, whatever you prefer.
Okay, this one I throw out all the time. My family, I'm really lucky. They've had season tickets since before I was born. So that's how I got into the 49ers and into sports in general. And so I have cried at Candlestick Park. I cried when Kyle Williams dropped the punt in the NFC Championship game. I cried that day in the stands. I've had a couple of funny stories. I was fortunate enough, like you have to take that little girl going to Candlestick, and then this year being able to go to Levi's in a professional capacity and cover the team that I love. That I mean, there are no real words to express how much it means to me, how much it means to my family to be able to have that full circle moment. I was able to interview Jerry Rice. I can tell that's a quick one. We're at the game against the Vikings, the divisional round. Mm-hmm. And my cameraman sees Jerry Rice, and Jerry Rice is so nice, so easygoing. He's talking to all of the reporters. And my cameraman goes, Drea, like, you got to ask Jerry for an interview. And I'm so nervous. Like, I don't like to bother anybody. I don't have that go-getter type of thing. So I was like, no. I don't want to waste his time. It's like, you have to ask Jerry Rice for an interview. And so he eventually gets me to do it. He like places me somewhere and Jerry's walking by and I go, excuse me, go. He turned and I was like, can I ask you a question really quick? And he said, yeah, but make it really quick. And I see his family's walking to the tunnel. So I was like, oh no, now I'm panicking more. Now I have to like speed it up. So I spit out my question, right? And it's loud. We're at the stadium and okay, I'm holding the microphone. Jerry's right here. And I keep doing this thing because I'm nervous that instinctually I wanted to bring him in. Nice hand on the upper back, you know? Comforting. But then I panicked and I was like, don't touch Jerry Rice. Took my hand off. Then I was like, don't be weird. Touch Jerry Rice. No, don't touch Jerry Rice. And I must have patted his back like 5 times out of just sheer panic. And then I asked him one question and I said, thank you, GOAT. That's all I need. And he left. And now I'll forever be the lady who touched his back too many times. That's how I will go down in history.
Yeah, he's probably walking back to his family like,
that chick.
Weird.
Just
That's an awesome story. Now we talked a little bit about Brandon Ayuk. However, there's a whole rookie class, not too many picks, but there's still some exciting names there. Who are you most excited to see?
It's got to be Ayuk and Kinlaw. Kinlaw's story, I've just bought in so hardcore. And then I love that both Ayuk and Kinlaw are JUCO guys, junior college players. I went to community college, so that I think is really cool and sets a great example for younger athletes. And then I'd like to include Trent Williams in the draft class because it happened over draft weekend. So Trent Williams.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And you did speak a little about Jerry Rice, so your answer may kind of already been alluded to there, but who's your favorite 49ers player of all time?
Franklin Delano Gore. Frank Gore is my favorite player from now until the end of time. I love Frank Gore. And if you go to my Twitter page, you will see a lot of tweets in reference to him.
Yeah, I don't think there even needs an explanation for that. Everybody loves Frank Gore. Great answer. Now, this one's a little more serious. Will there even be a 2020 NFL season?
I don't know. I get my hopes up. You know, it's starting to feel, just as a fan looking at this situation, it begins to feel like we've had all of this time, we've had all of these months, and now we're 2 weeks out of training camp, and it doesn't seem like there's been any decisions made or any conversations being had about what testing protocol is going to be like, how training camp is going to be conducted. And now we're coming up to this deadline, and it's frustrating. It's frustrating because the NFL had an incredible advantage in terms of time and their ability to watch other leagues try to navigate this, and it just does not feel like they took advantage of that.
Yeah, that's a great point. They've had months to prepare. So if it doesn't happen, I'd say they have themselves to blame for it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, last question's kind of more of a funny one, but still a little serious. Do people hate Jimmy Garoppolo? Active?
It can't help, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
I don't know. I don't know what the frustration is with Jimmy G. I don't know. This has just been my team for 29 years now. And so then when people decide they want to hate on them, I'm like, what do you mean? Like, what is there to hate? They're so lovable. But I'm sure Jimmy G, being as handsome as he is, does not help the situation at all. I think people like to use it as a way to demean him, call him a pretty boy or those kind of things. But I think he's proven that he is extremely efficient and productive in this system, and that him and Shanahan make a really good team. So I'm happy with Jimmy G, even if everyone wants to hate.
Yeah, I guess we'll just have to take the attractiveness on the chin and go the other way.
It's our burden to bear.
Yeah, exactly. Drea, thank you so much for joining me today. That was a blast. Guys, make sure you go and follow her on Twitter. Her handle is below on the screen. And thank you again.
Thank you.